Grand Theft Auto 6 is on the horizon, and obviously there's a lot of stuff we want in the game, but what just shouldn't be there. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, 10 things Grand Theft Auto 6 doesn't need. Starting off at number 10, it's a bunch of cyberpunk combat vehicles and flying cars. There are way too many ridiculous futuristic military vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online that look and feel completely out of place. They look like something out of Saints Row, not the comparatively somewhat down-to-earth, more down-to-earth than Saints Row, world of Grand Theft Auto. And they do not need to bring that back for the next game. It's not just that it's over-the-top silly, it's also a pain to deal with. The hover bike, called the Oppressor MK11, has achieved meme status in the online community because of how it's used and abused by griefers. It's not just that they can fly, they also have lock-on missiles, which are easy to spam and require zero skill to kill people. So they're really fast, hard to hit, have a brainless weapon in its lock-on rockets that can be spammed super easy. Who thought this was a good idea in an online game? Any online game. And it's not just that griefers use it. Everybody uses it because it's really easy to get around and convenient to the point where it's basically necessary now. It dominates the online game just because it's so incredibly overpowered. Vehicles in GTA do not need to be powerful. There doesn't need to be all these ridiculous future vehicles flying around Vice City. It looks ridiculous in Los Santos, but it's going to look way goofier in not Miami. Now, obviously, we're talking about the online component. We're probably not going to see that stuff in, regular Grand Theft Auto 6, but still, they're going to end up putting them in there. They'll hold off a couple years, but they'll eventually bring them back. All the dumb military stuff and future vehicles, it's all going to be back because it makes them a bunch of money. People buy this crap, so they'll probably go back to that well eventually. All I ask is that we have to have a ton of military tech in the game, have to have a bunch of futuristic stuff in the game, at least make it a little more balanced. Like, there is a reason I don't boot up Grand Theft Auto Online a whole lot anymore, and that's a large part of it. It's not the only thing, but it's a large part of it. And hell, if they really wanted to fix it, they could ramp up the satire and make it so these prototype vehicles are actually crap, like untested billion-dollar government boondoggles that just fall out of the sky randomly. That would be really funny, but I'm not sure the target audience for these things would appreciate the joke. And number 9 is an always online requirement. Hopefully, GTA 6 is exactly like GTA 5. There's a single player mode that you can turn on and play anytime, even without the internet. And GTA Online, which is of course online only because it's in the name, GTA Online. Like, what do you expect? But what I really just don't want to see with the next game is Rockstar screwing that up somehow and making it so single player requires a constant online connection to function. It's not that I'm worried about losing connection, because this day and age, that's not much of an issue, but I hate the idea of losing access to single player content just because a video game company decides they don't want to support the game anymore. An online requirement would make it a lot harder to mod the single player as well and put you at greater risk of being banned just for doing basic stuff like modding and UI improvements or inserting something harmless in the game like a new car or something. I know GTA Online has plenty of mods, but there's always that risk of getting banned out of nowhere for something relatively harmless, and that sucks. Realistically, this is Grand Theft Auto 6. It's going to be one of the biggest games of all time, so it's safe to say that Take-Two and Rockstar will keep the servers running for years, and even if they didn't, fans would find a way to keep the game running on their own. The game is just too popular to disappear entirely because of a stupid online-only requirement, but it would be an unnecessary complication and something that we've seen a lot more of in the decades since Grand Theft Auto 5, and the response is always the same. Single-player modes shouldn't need online to function. It's stupid and unnecessary, just hostile towards consumers, and I hope they leave well enough alone. And number 8, missions that are literal chores. I don't know if this is controversial, but one thing I don't think we need in the next game is a bunch of boring stuff. I know role players love to do mundane activities. That's pretty much the cornerstone of GTA roleplay, but I kind of don't want it to be part of the main story campaign. Like, you know what I'm talking about here, guys? I don't just mean stuff that you think is boring, like races or something that just somebody doesn't like. I mean stuff like mopping the floor as Michael during one of the heists, or that mission where you use a crane as Trevor. I mean those missions where you do literally like menial tasks, normal jobs for a little bit. If they can make them into fun mini games that are, not tedious, Sure, I'm okay with that kind of stuff. Like a crane minigame can be a lot of fun. The one that I'm referring to is pretty boring. Like, leave this stuff in GTA Online as roleplay options, because I'm going to say this, I know that there's going to be roleplay catering in this next game, but if it's in single player, I'd rather just be doing interesting things like sneaking around, stealing, getting into gunfights, that sort of thing. And if they have to leave in boring day jobs, try to make them interesting. Don't just make us do work. As it is, this stuff is painful to get through on repeat playthroughs. Like, I'm pretty sure I fell asleep one time playing Trevor's extremely dull dock adventure.
Hook it up! Okay, we got it. Let's take her down to Bay F.
I know, in the grand scheme, these segments are pretty short, but there's nothing to these activities. You just feel like your time is being wasted, and that's not a good feeling when you're supposed to be playing a fun video game. I do enough boring stuff, so when I'm playing GTA, I don't need to be scrubbing toilets, man. I want to cause some mayhem. And number 7 is online exclusive updates and additions. We've gotten years of GTA Online updates, but do most of those new vehicles and mechanics appear in the single player? No, they don't. On one hand, I'm glad that multiplayer and single player are disconnected. They should not be the same thing, as I've said already. Like, the last thing I would want for GTA 6 is some kind of hybrid story mode where the online game and single player are the same thing. But on the flip side, I don't want to see Rockstar once again neglect the single player option to focus almost exclusively on the online only features. There are now hundreds of cars that can be obtained online that do not appear in single player at all, and it sucks. New features, new heists, new buildings that appear online like would be fun in single player. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them. Like, it doesn't just have to be stuff that applies to online players. It could just be basic things that could exist in both modes. They're online only though. For GTA 6, I'd like a little more parity between the two versions. I don't want to be the same. I don't expect them to be. But Rockstar, don't forget about single player. It is an extremely popular mode, and if we're going to be frank, it's the thing that gets people into the multiplayer. Just because you can't sell shark cards in single player doesn't mean players wouldn't be willing to shell over some cash for some story expansions and stuff like that. But knowing how Rockstar operates these days, I'm not super hopeful on online exclusive updates. But at least they can keep the two modes separate. I know I keep harping on that, but man. But, I mean, and some appropriate updates from online to single player. I would be happy with that. And number 6 is tedious crafting systems and other RPG elements. Open world games go full RPG these days, throwing in crafting systems, experience levels, skill trees, another detritus. I'm kidding. It's not necessarily detritus. It's just Grand Theft Auto just doesn't need that stuff. I don't want to go into the woods and pick berries and craft healing items. I don't want to have to run over to every car that explodes and collect scrap to upgrade my car. I don't want to level up and invest points into a skill tree and power up my character. There's progression systems in GTA games, but they're very different from their standard RPG. There doesn't need to be legendary enemies that glow gold and health bars over everybody you shoot, and you shouldn't need to upgrade your guns to make them actually effective. I don't expect Rockstar will do any of this stuff. They've always done things their own way and not followed industry trends, but it's possible they could implement some of these RPG mechanics, and I just don't think they need it. Like, Skyrim is great. I enjoy it. I don't need Grand Theft Auto to be it, though. And number 5 is traffic that's constantly swerving into you. You know what I'm talking about. You're driving on the highway in your souped up super sport, weaving around traffic like a madman, and some idiot going 30 miles per hour decides that now is the time to merge into the center lane. They bump you, your car goes flying. Wasted. Or take pretty much any time you're in the city. You're driving around trying to avoid the police, and out of nowhere a car turns right in front of you, blocking your way and extending your escape. It happens too often in GTA games, and with GTA 6, it's time to give the player a break. We're at a point where cars could probably have AI that isn't stupid as hell, right? Stop with the wildly swerving cars who dart all over the road with no warning. Maybe make it so people use their cars like normal people mostly. Is that really that much to ask? Like, they have cars in the real world that drive themselves. Having a fake car in a fake world is infinitely less complex than that. Like, it's not even close. So maybe make it so that people use their cars like normal people mostly? Is that so much to ask? People speculate that the old GTA games did this to stop players from going too fast in order to give the game some time to load. That's not a problem anymore. You're not going to fall through the world if you go too fast, so maybe give us a break with the aggressively stupid drivers next game. Sure, make traffic a little unpredictable. Yes, but the people constantly crashing into you for seemingly no reason, leave that part out. And number 4 is super restrictive Rockstar style missions. At this point, we all know what Rockstar missions are generally like. They're very cinematic, but because of that, they can be pretty restrictive at times. There's a lot of missions in GTA 5 or Red Dead 2 where if you deviate even slightly off the intended path, you just fail. Now, having a few missions like this spread out so you get to them every once in a while, especially if there's stakes and a reason why if you might fail if you wander away from the group or whatever. But there's so many instances where like the mission ends for no good reason. You walked 2 feet to the right instead of the left. Game over, man. And the thing that you did wrong is interfere with Rockstar's very restrictive mission design. So for GTA 6, I'd like them to open things up a little bit and give players a little more agency for how they want to do things. Like they could have more sandbox-style missions that drop you in an area and let you do things how you want to do. I actually think GTA 6 probably will do stuff like this. With the game's potential focus on robberies, I think that's probably where that's gonna go. Imagine a mission where they drop you in front of a mansion and just let you have at it. You can shoot the place, sneak in, carefully disable all the security. Basically a hitman mission. Maybe there's optional objectives they can perform to unlock new routes or special things to steal. There could practically be immersive sim-style levels. That would be amazing. That isn't to say I just hate every highly scripted mission with really specific requirements. They just shouldn't be like that all the time. And also, when they have stakes, that's when they're really good. When they're just kind of like, oh, you took a wrong turn here. You don't have any time to get back on the right track. So that's a mission failure. I think Rockstar knows what the feedback is, and they will have less of this railroading, but I really hope they go full Hitman once in a while and give us some big missions that we could complete in some way that we really wanted to. Like, that would be pretty amazing, actually. And number 3, and this one is satisfying to say, so it's a really, I hope this one doesn't happen, a fuel mechanic. One commonly requested feature that a lot of people want for the next game is incorporating more role-playing. Some of the ideas I like, while others I'm really not crazy about. A fuel mechanic is one of them. I just don't think that would add a lot to the experience. I know certain role-playing groups actually have fuel, and you have to gas up every 2 hours or so of continuous driving, so it's not super intrusive or anything, but that sort of role-playing stuff just doesn't feel necessary in single-player Grand Theft Auto. If you need to refuel your car, and here's kind of my thinking about it. If you have to refuel your car, what other boring stuff is going to be mandatory? Do you need to shower every day? Because I don't like doing any of that stuff. I'm a big Shadows of Doubt fan. I love that game, but I hate the fact that you have to shower every once in a while. It doesn't add anything to the game. Not for me anyway. I don't know. I'm sure there's people who think that's super great, but I just, can we stick with the fun stuff in the game? Yeah, other open world games have fuel. Mafia had it, didn't really matter. Days Gone has it, but that's more of a survival game, and you just have one bike, so there's a lot of mechanical focus, like a horse in Red Dead. It makes sense that you have to do things involving the horse. You have one horse. You have to maintain the horse. You have to do things with the horse. That's cowboy stuff. It's a cowboy game. But cars in GTA are not that. You switch vehicles all the time. So having to worry about the condition and fuel levels, it feels like busy work. I know, yes I know, there are role players who love all the mundane details. So how about a compromise? Make it like a New Vegas survival mode. Just have the realism stuff on toggle. Okay? You can play that way if you want it, but for the people who don't, like moi, you can just leave that off. For online players, you can have different servers for role players and non-role players. I know Rockstar's planning on expanding role-playing because they hired some of the guys who made some of the most popular online role-playing stuff. So clearly they want to make that stuff official, but just don't force it onto the players that don't want it. Leave it optional, and everybody is going to be pretty happy, I think. And number 2, I really hope they don't have buildings you can't go into. One common complaint about GTA 5 is how few of the buildings you can actually enter. It's understandable why that is. It's so much extra work modeling all these interiors that most people are never going to see, but being able to go inside of buildings makes the world feel much more immersive. Now, if the leaks are to be believed, then this is actually at the top of their priorities for the next game. I don't expect literally every building to be enterable in GTA 6, but if the leaked design documents are true, then it's possible that a majority of the buildings in the next game will let players enter them. It would make sense too, especially if they're going to be serious about online play, which I think they are. Even if most of these locations are never used in single player, having all these interiors already built will make it a lot easier for them to expand multiplayer options, like more arenas and heist locations that generally feature more of the world. Of course, having a ton of interiors makes sense for single player too, because if you're doing a lot of robberies, then there has to be a lot of houses and shops and offices to rob. The game had fully modeled neighborhoods with houses and interiors that you could steal from at any time. Yet most houses and apartments in an area will probably share the same assets and be mostly the same, but just being able to go inside a place can make the game world feel a lot more alive. Just look at Skyrim. It's hardly the most realistic open world game in terms of its graphics anymore, but the immersion is still there just because every building, or at least nearly every building in the game, serves some kind of purpose. At number 1, and I think this will be completely uncontroversial among the people watching this video, I'm of course talking about how little I want to see any live service crap. As much as everybody complains about how pay-to-win GTA Online can be, and about how we all hate shark cards, one thing I have to give to the game is how it doesn't have many of the most egregious elements of live service gaming. There's no battle pass or multiple premium currencies or anything like that. It has plenty of its own online problems. It's hardly perfect, but it could be way, way worse. Like, imagine a GTA Online with a timed battle pass with tiers, or guns that are split into different rarities like Fortnite? Like, imagine that. What if they threw in a bunch of annoying daily progression quests, not like the ones already in the game, but ones that are even more annoying? What if instead of buying cars, you have to rank your global level to 10 and get 10 different currencies, and then you have to craft an epic level Subaru or something like that? Like, take all the most annoying exploitative elements of live service games and slap them on top of GTA Online, and it would be miserable. Like, imagine if they went all in on the crossovers. That's all the rage this day. Just completely give up on the satirical nature of Grand Theft Auto and go full corporate synergy. Like, they're halfway there anyway. Don't you want to drive the Batmobile or an Ecto-1 in a GTA game? Oh yeah! And to make it even worse, the game's single player is integrated into online, so now you're trying to immerse yourself in the story while an NPC dressed as Superman is dabbing in the middle of the screen. Yeah, love that idea. I mean, that's the worst case scenario, and I really don't expect Rockstar to go that far. But I do worry that there will be more annoying live service elements that sneak their way into online. Rockstar does their own thing, but as we've learned in the past few years, they're also perfectly willing to sacrifice artistic integrity for cold hard cash. I don't want to be too cynical, though. This is all pure speculation, and at this point, it's completely baseless. But what we have seen of GTA 6 does look awesome, and I'm still really looking forward to it. I just had to pick some stuff that I just really hope doesn't appear in this next game. And this is number 1. I think probably for everybody. I don't think anybody will disagree with it. Stay independent, Rockstar. Don't make online much worse just to chase a quick buck. I do have a quick bonus thing I do not want. Bringing back a protagonist from a previous game just to kill him. Yeah, a lot of people, including myself, are still sore about this one. If you played the Lost in the Damned DLC from GTA 4, you learned to like Johnny. His story was, sure, depressing, and he seemed like a decent guy just trying to survive. Honestly, one of the more sympathetic protagonists in these games. So when we see him again in GTA 5, he's a drug-addicted loser who gets his girlfriend stolen by Trevor and then gets his brains bashed in, and it kind of sucks. I know Rockstar was trying to be edgy here. They wanted to shock us, but come on, Johnny wasn't that bad. Did you really have to do him that dirty? So, like in GTA 6, don't bring back CJ and make him poop his pants or throw him into a wood chipper or something. It's just unnecessary. Like, if you want to bring CJ back to do something awesome, bring CJ back to do something awesome, but otherwise leave the good memories alone. Just spare us. And spare the old protagonist.